Sure you're all painfully aware of the
And
controversy.
we are back, and this week we're deep diving into the value of $60. Caper Doodle, do the dandy. The craziest thing about video games is being $60. Is that they've gotten away with it. Uh, it's the craziest thing about video games being $60 is that they've gotten much more complicated to make over time, but the price has stayed around $60. If you're buying the new Super Mario game on Nintendo Switch, it's probably going to cost $60. If you're buying the new Call of Duty on PlayStation 5 or Xbox One, it's probably going to cost $60. That's the base level price. There are special editions, there are limited editions, but and there are a lot of other ways that video game companies have come up with ways to spend more than $60 on video games. But the base level, entry level price for blockbuster video games on a console is now $60. The current, there was certainly a time period where games cost anywhere from $40 to $80 in Nintendo's early entertainment system, the early Nintendo Entertainment System era. Video games in general for consoles began to be priced around $50. That was when PlayStation 1 and N64 era. Eventually, not so long after that, about 10 years later, the price increased with the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360 and the Nintendo Wii generation to $60. And things have stayed the same in terms of console gaming ever since. The $60 price is mostly due to consumer expectation. So if you're Nintendo or Sony or Microsoft or any other game publishers out there, if you released your game, the base level being $70, $80 more than that, it's a strong possibility that people just won't buy it, right? But after a bit of debate in the Discord this week, particularly between Jake and I, we got to thinking, what is the value of our $60? So guys, my first question, when you're paying $60, what are you expecting to get out of the game? Kev, we'll start with you.
I'm expecting a complete game. I can't believe I have to say that, but that seems to be an ongoing issue nowadays. And delivered promises. Also, same. Yeah, I just think that if you have a showcase, like hypothetically, if you have a showcase at E3, you show this is what the game is going to be. This is what it's going to be on the day that it's released. That is what I expect my $60 to go towards, not something that requires massive patches and updates. And I get it, nothing's perfect upon release, and I understand that, and I appreciate the patches and updates, but not to the fact, not only if it's to make the game better, not because the game is broken at launch. Yes, that's where, because by the time a game gets fixed to the point where it's actually playable or good, I probably lost interest and have moved on to something else.
Yeah,
Fact.
yeah. I mean, the complete game is a fair complaint nowadays. I think what constitutes a complete game could be an entirely new deep dive that we could do. We probably should write that one down. Because what used to constitute a complete game for Pokemon Snap on the N64 was like 5 courses that wouldn't fly on the Nintendo Switch, right? But honestly, that game in general was debated to be, should it be worth $60? Jake, you and I, again, we're going at this pretty hard in the Discord earlier this week. What are you expecting to get out of a game when you pay $60?
I mean, I think Kevin kind of he added, or what you said, a lot of it. It's, the product's complete. That is one thing, and playable. I think that's why, to me, I think Cyberpunk or something like that was worth $60. Where to somebody who didn't get to play it, it may not be. But my PC could handle it. It was a fun game. I played with limited bugs. I put 70 hours or so into it. It was worth $60 to me, right? And so but then not every game has to be super, huge fucking ultra ray tracing $60, to be a $60 game. I've gotten tons of hours out of, games like Animal Crossing that was a $60 game as well. And so I think it's something about the playability, but then I think also to me it's a overall effort level, right?
Yeah.
I have a gauge, and it's kind of anecdotal, But like, if I don't believe the effort was put into that game, like it just doesn't look like it was $60 worth of effort compared to how much other people have presented me as $60 worth of effort, right?
Right.
And so like, if I see a game that I just feel like they threw the $60 price tag on it because that's just the basic, right? That they knew they could sell it for that, so that's what they did. And it always kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth, you know? I'm always like kind of looking at it like, you know, that's just you only did that because you know you can, and because that's what we're used to, and capitalism says we're gonna pay it, you know. And so, but like, I really look for a game to be completed. I'm not like trying to be sold on like, oh, it'll be a complete game in 6 months, you know. Like if Fortnite would have cost $60, I'd have had a problem with that, you know, but it being a free continual beta was kind of like, you know, made it almost worth the
But it seems
download.
like we only have those two kind of levels though, right? It's either free or
Oh,
$60.
yeah. No,
You know,
if
like-
you're not talking indie gamers, which, you know, indie games, there are a lot of really great ones out there that I think honestly kind of like hurt the argument for $60 games, right? Because they're typically cheaper, and some of them have been very good.
Yeah,
That's true.
I will definitely argue that Sea of Thieves is worth $40. I mean, I don't know what it currently is going for on the price on Steam right now, but I think that it's worth that price for sure. But I mean, I don't know. So one of the big ones that I think of, right, is I think of our differences, Jake, particularly between you and I on Pokemon, right? And like to be fair and on lay the level right here, right? I can understand from your perspective, like why it might not be worth a $60 game to you. There's a lot of things that you can complain about Pokemon from a normal gamer standpoint, like basic graphic kind of stuff. And just like the linear aspect of it, the limited, you know, like the fact that we're trying to do free roam for the first time, and it seems like, you know, we've seen better free roam games on N64 in as far as capacity and breadth of it, right? But Pokemon is a game that I've sunk more hours into probably than any other game that I've played, at least on my Switch for sure. Argue and close to one of the most games I've played all time, because I play it competitively, right? I've gotten well worth the $60 out of it, well worth the $90 I put out of it with DLC. Jake, you were talking about this earlier. If we got the game that was like the full version, right, with the DLC for $60, that might feel like it was worth it for the full like journey to go through all that.
Yeah,
But
no, we're
outside
talking
of
about
that,
that
it's
later. Yeah, because we were talking about that because I definitely see where if you play it competitively, you're getting your hours in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you've definitely gotten $60 out of it. And I feel like I got $60 out of Sword and Shield, even in its base game, but I didn't feel like, I felt like the DLC should have been included because they felt like parts of the base game that were just locked behind a paywall.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so like, it was one of those where like, it didn't feel like it was additional, even though it was additional content, it
Especially
felt like
the
content
Crown
that kind of
Tundra in that
should have been
aspect.
there the whole time, you know?
Yeah.
And like, so it's just one of those where I don't play it competitively. I play it, you know, to go through it, play like for some of the nostalgia, and also because, you know, Pokemon's typically a pretty fun turn-based game. And so like it's fun to it was a fun playthrough on Sword and Shield altogether, but like I think that after I beat it, I was still just like, man, they are skating by on Pokemon. Like like these dudes, like, just I feel like so much more effort could be put into it. And I feel like the reason why like I think we disagreed so heavily is because like I feel like I've invested a lot in the Pokemon company monetarily over the years. And it's just like where other companies, they seem to step their pussy up. Like they're always coming out with like a cooler game, like the newer graphics, they're tweaking this, they're tweaking that. And I feel like Pokemon and Nintendo, I may go ahead and throw Nintendo as a whole into this realm, right? Like I don't want to just make it look like I'm just picking on Pokemon, because it's really not. Like the Super Mario Odyssey, beautiful fucking game. I think it had great graphics, right? It was a ton of fun. Did it feel like I got $60 out of it? I mean, yeah, I had fun, but if I'm comparing that to some of these other games that I paid $60 for, like if I'm comparing Mario Odyssey to Red Dead, it's like, come on. Like, fucking Red Dead should have made me pay $200 for that fucking game.
Yeah, comparatively, if Mario
like,
was a $60
comparatively,
game.
yeah.
Well,
like, and so
I mean,
it's
if
just
you
like,
played Red Dead Online, you probably did, but that's another.
yeah. Have you played Red Dead Online? I'm just talking like I'm even playing through Ghost of Tsushima right now. $60 game. It's not just breathtakingly gorgeous. The story is fucking chef's kiss. I've put in over like 80 hours in exploration in one of the most beautiful worlds filled with lore and it's amazing. It's one of the best games I've ever played in my life. And it's so crazy to me that game is the same exact price as like fucking, I don't know, like just like any one of the Nintendo games, if I'm being honest. Like Breath of the Wild was deep, and so I got to give that one that. But that came out even on the Wii.
Smash Brothers is pretty extensive and contained a large roster of characters. I think Smash Brothers would be worth $60 price.
I'm almost thinking like, and I get this is hard to compare to because like you bounce around, right? Like because it's hard not to bounce between different games whenever we're talking the pricing argument. You know what I mean?
Right.
But like when they're at their core. I'm comparing like very cinematic-y single player kind of like one player games to like some that aren't, right? Like Mario is a platformer, you know?
Right.
But then that also brings it back, like, you know, it's fucking a platformer.
But also like you're not
$60.
gonna pop out, but also there's different purposes to it. Like you're not gonna prop out Red Dead at the middle of a party, right? And so like you might pop out Mario Party or Smash Brothers. Right, you know, because those games are much more palatable for a wider audience, kind of thing. And so, in that purpose, is that worth $60? I mean, you know, I think that there could be an argument there. Like, if you look at, it's like comparing stuff like Batman the Animated Series to a Christopher Nolan film, right? Batman the Animated Series was a series originally made for children, right? Palatable for multiple generations because it's just really well written and beautiful, right? So that could be very much a Breath of the Wild kind of thing. Whereas you have a Christopher Nolan film, you know, take almost any of them, you know, The Dark Knight, you know, just something super hyper realistic. Those have two different purposes.
Yeah.
Right. But at the same time, I guess I picked a bad example because I picked a movie series and a movie. But like, ideally, you could go to the place and those would be the same price at some point in time, and that's not, you know, necessarily a crazy argument. It's just really a different experience that you want, right? And so like. In some instances, like I get more playtime out of a lot of the Nintendo party games than I do some of those one-player games. Some of those one cinematic, you know, single-player games that I blow through and then like I'm done. You know, I haven't picked up Miles Morales because there's no DLC after the game to really do, and I've kind of finished all the missions that I want to finish, right? And so I'm pretty much done with that game. I'm still returning back to Unite. You know?
I think Miles is an interesting one too, because I don't know if I would like count that as a $60 game. That story and just the content overall, like it felt like an extended DLC to the other Spider-Man game. Like it was good. Don't get me wrong. Fucking Miles Morales was one of the best games on PS5 I've played so far. It's a gorgeous one. It's a lot of fun to play, but like it's just so thin too. Whenever you're like the replayability's thin, the actual story's thin, like. And so it's one of those where like it's hard because like I know that a lot of effort goes into making these games, but then that's where like it feels like some studios maybe put less into it and still charge the same as studios who put more into it. And so I guess but I think that may be like just me judging it, you know, like at like kind of face value, because I don't really know. I mean,
because like, and I hate to keep on using Pokemon as I'll use Smash Brothers. Smash Brothers on the back end takes a lot of maintenance with the community that they're managing, right? And like the kind of stuff that they're trying to do, running tournaments, continually getting out content from these, you know, diverse sources. The best thing that Smash Brothers can do is add characters like Sora from Kingdom Hearts, you know, something that's not necessarily a Nintendo franchise, but a lot of Nintendo players love. And add that all into one game, right? And in that regard, like, you know, they're just using their capacity, like they're using their spoons and they're distributing them into different buckets, right? Their stretch may be to be able to get Sora and Sonic and Mario all in the same fucking game, right? Whereas Red Dead's spoons may be all thrown into the storyline bucket, all thrown into the graphics bucket, all thrown into the cinematic experience bucket. And I think that's I think it's fair to be critical of that, right? But I think that the value of $60 comes from the meaning of its purpose, whatever that may be. And that may not look like the same thing. Like not every game has to be a Red Dead kind of thing. And like I think objectively, I talked about this before with you, Jake, right? Objectively, I know that like you're not the kind of person that's like, well, I'm not going to play a game if it has bad graphics. No, that's not the case, right? You played Among Us, right? You played Fall Guys, but both of those games were free, right?
Yeah.
So it's not that it makes it so it's unplayable, right? Because if it was unplayable, it wouldn't matter if it was free, right?
Mhm.
So there's it's just where you, I guess, where you end up drawing that line is where it is.
Well, and that's why, like, my thing is that I think it depends on what. That's why when you asked
Yeah.
what it was that I'm expecting, I think that's subjective, right? That's why I try to bring it to like objectively what a $60 game should be. Like, for instance, I saw somebody like debating on Twitter the difference between God of War and Metroid Dread, where someone was like, "Oh yeah, I can't believe you call Metroid Dread a AAA title in comparison to say like God of War." But
Yeah.
really, I mean, they're two, and I could see that from face value, right? Like God of War is a
Yeah.
stunningly beautiful game, but apparently from everything I've heard and read, Metroid is also an amazingly like well
Right.
produced game. So I think if you're looking on it on face value, I don't think you'll ever have really a concrete argument. I think it just depends on what you're looking to get out of it, right? Because they showed a scene where it's like, yes, this is a beautifully like produced and developed scene of God of
I
War,
mean, I
but
think that
really it's just a bunch of quick action, right? Where it's
those,
like Metroid, like
yeah.
one's objectively harder than the other. So I think it just depends on what you're looking to get out of it, right? For instance, like single player games for me, if I played a really good AAA single player game, paid $60 for it, and had no additional content and no other reason to pick it up, if the game satisfied me enough where I was satiated and able to move on, I would consider that worth the price, as opposed to a game that I constantly feel the need to play because I'm never satisfied with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's where like it just depends on what you're trying to get out of the game. I don't think games like Overwatch or Rainbow Six, and they're not now for the most part, but games like that are just strictly multiplayer based that you're obviously going to play over and over and over again because of the constant content and just the competitive nature of it in general. I don't think those are $60 games just because they're not satisfying in a sense that you can walk away from them unless you're just
Yeah.
bored or you find something else.
Yeah. Jake, why do you think we expect more from some developers and not others?
Yeah, like I mean, and that's kind of what I was talking about earlier. Is that like I just feel like there's some developers, like I think Nintendo is the biggest one that probably gets
Yeah.
the most of a pass, right?
Yeah.
And I think we accept it because we love the characters. Like we love Pokemon, we love Mario,
Yeah.
we
Well,
love
also at one
Zelda,
point, Nintendo was the innovative one. Like they were the Willy Wonka of gaming. They would come out there with we're gonna have you, jumping up and down and doing a hula hoop and doing all this kind of things. They're less of that now, right? And so I
Yeah.
think that's more of to your point, and to why it's more of like feeling like they get a pass. But beforehand, it was like, well, they didn't have the greatest graphics, but they're innovating stuff with motion control, right? And now Oculus is out there, and you can't compete.
Well, I
with that.
get that the Switch as a console itself it is a handheld, and it
Mhm.
does
Yeah.
just because it has the docking kind of everything doesn't necessarily make it a console. But like, I think that also is kind of like the weird thing about Nintendo is that they play into like I love it. I love the gimmicks of motion and everything that they kind of like throw in with it. I love the whole like you said, the Willy Wonka-esque of Nintendo.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
like at this point where we're getting so like basically where consoles are PCs, it's one of
Yeah.
those where like how much longer and does Nintendo continue to compete? Does it need to? I don't really think it needs to. I think it has its own thing going on. I guess my only big complaint would be why try to match the price of an Xbox game when you're not producing the same amount of quality as an Xbox game? And I don't necessarily agree that every Nintendo game has that quality. It may have some of that playability. There's like a lot
Yeah.
of like I do like I paid $60 for the new fucking Mario Party game, right?
Yeah.
All that is 5 maps rehashed from Mario Parties like 1 through 5 or something like that, or 4.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And they slapped on some cool new Mario graphics, and I get to play the 4 maps that I played whenever I was a kid. I mean, yeah, it's fun. And do I feel as if I've had $60 worth of fun with my friends playing it? I mean, yeah, I'm gonna have to agree, right?
Yeah.
But if I'm really laying it out there, they basically just gave me a few maps from old Mario Party games I've played, gave me the ability to play it online and then said, okay, we're going to charge you the same amount that you just paid for Ghost of Tsushima, which is like a far more superior game.
But I guess what I'm trying to say is, though, do you think this is just a relative thing, or do you think this is legitimately a bad business practice?
I think Nintendo is getting away with bad business practices. I think like some of us are getting fucking played. Like I think Nintendo's playing folks. Like the fact that Hollow Knight is a like $20 game by an indie developer and straight up shits on almost everything Nintendo's put out in the past, like since they've made the Switch, besides Breath of the Wild, which was a Wii game, by the way. Like it's incredible to me. And I think like I think like the reason why our argument probably hit the biggest head is because like I think you're still giving Nintendo benefit of the doubt, and I'm almost on my way out as being a fanboy for this whole fucking thing. Like I'm so tired of them regurgitating the same thing. Like I feel like it's like Madden. Like I've only gotten so many things I can just get the same shit given to me over and over again.
Hey, look, Xbox just bought Bethesda, and they're still making Skyrim again. Like, you know.
Oh, I know. That's what blows my mind too. Like, and you know what? And I'm such a fucking idiot. Like I thought, like, oh, should I buy it? You know, like oh man, I haven't played Skyrim in a long time. I put 300 hours into that game years ago, right? Like, so I definitely got my like $60 worth back then. But like, oh man, like I don't know. I'm not saying I'm over Nintendo. It's just like it's definitely getting frustrated, and I think I had a lot of higher hopes for this Legends game. You know, because when I'm told like open world Breath of the Wild style game, and honestly, we may get the game and it may be fucking chef's kiss. It could be beautiful. It could look better than Breath of the Wild, and I could be eating crow, right? Yeah. But if I had to go ahead, if I'm a bet,
you have really made your bet with this one. So like, if it if it does, like, you
no, if it comes out, I mean,
crow
like,
is
I'll
going
admit,
to be served,
like, it's like,
sure.
hey, yeah, this is a great game. I'll admit that it's way prettier than I thought it would be. But like, I just don't think like you can market to me this cool open world RPG style Pokemon game, and then all of the screenshots I've seen from it look like it was from a DS, and then just be like, get excited, you know, like I'm just like, you know, like, come on, Nintendo / Pokemon, how many chances do I got to give you?
It's funny to me because to me it's particularly Legends, and that's the one that sparked the whole debate in the first place. Particularly Legends is trying to do something different and more extensive with the Pokemon franchise than the other games that have been out there. And like, and I can agree that it's not comparative to you know, a lot of the games on the 5th gen consoles, which is what Switch is supposed to be. Like, people forget that the Wii U was what was supposed to compete with the PS4 and the Xbox One, right? The PS5 is supposed to compete with the Switch, so that's supposed to be, those are supposed to be on the same level as those things. I can start to see where that might not balance out for you, but like for me, seeing something like Legends, like if there's any direction the Pokemon company should go in, it is that direction. You know, doing stuff that is more risky and different. And I hope that they and stuff with, like, you know, even the art direction is more cell shading based, has you know, a bunch of more focus on the nature aspect. Do I like the fact that the fucking ponds look like absolute fucking garbage? No, I don't. But, you know, like, for me, obviously, with how much I love Pokemon, I'm not going to get caught up on how the trees look. And it's honestly kind of a joke within the Pokemon, like the people that actually play it hard. Because when you play Pokemon competitively, you look at it as a very complex 4D chess game kind of thing. And outside, there's nothing that's going to give you that kind of 4D chess kind of scenario that Pokemon does. So if it looks like hot garbage, I mean, we play on Pokemon Showdown. There's like particularly settings that you can set on there that will make it look like garbage, so you can get through the shit quicker, because we don't care about the fucking animations. We don't care what those things look like. We're trying to actually play the goddamn game. And with that aspect of it, there's people that are like sitting there like, oh, well, the trees look that, and those genuinely take away from the experience of the people that are just there to play the game and have been there before. And so it's creates this divide between casual and hardcore. It's toxic.
Well, and that's why I get back to I think that the argument is subjective, right? It's to the user. For instance, to me, it sounded like the same argument that people use for Madden and 2K, right? Where it's like, it's the same game every year. The difference is they just added more sweat. you know, but really
Right.
it shouldn't be, you know, it's
Well, for this
but
though,
the people
I
that
would
play
argue
it
Pokemon. I would
religiously
argue
and on like
Pokemon
a
is at least better with that because at least they're adding new Pokemon that like haven't existed before,
yeah,
or a new gimmick. Like if football was allowed to like Gigantamax, like you don't have a
dude, that'd be
gimmick
fucking
like that
awesome.
in there, right?
Yeah,
You know, and so
right.
there are aspects of it that I think they're legitimately like changing the whole thing, where it's not just an absolute reskin of
Well,
the same scenario. But
I
I
just bring up the
understand where the
point of like
comparison's coming from now, especially with
I
Jake.
just bring up the point of like the trees,
Yeah.
right? Like you're saying the graphics are like for someone who plays it like competitively like you, it's a hindrance, but for someone who like picked it up like hasn't played in like years, casual like me, it'd be a different story, right? And I assumed like the same thing would be for a sports game. Like, why are they fucking working about that shit? Just worry about the my player or whatever, the mutt, the stuff,
Yeah.
the stuff that majority of the people are going to be playing it on. So I think it's like it's where these. Well, I mean, they don't really have to figure it out because they're going to sell games regardless. But if let's hypothetically say if they needed to figure out a direction to go to save their business model, I feel like they have to pick a side, and I think that's where I think that's where kind of this where you kind of have this line drawn in the sand where it's like games like or companies like Nintendo and EA and stuff, they've drawn this line in the sand like we're going to try to appease everybody, and instead of doing instead of doing like a couple or even just one thing amazingly and masterfully, we're just going to do everything just pretty good.
Yeah. No,
Played
I
mobile games that operate quicker, smoother, and with better graphics than Switch games. And so it's just one of those where I think like Nintendo just continually gets a pass because they've tapped into really great character. They have great IP. Like
They have
that.
great
That's the
IP.
end of the day is they have fucking amazing
Let me
IP,
ask you this
right?
though. Let me ask you this, Jake. Jake, would you pay if they said we're doing Halo at $80, right?
Yeah.
If they say that no, Nintendo games are worth $60 because Nintendo games are worth $60 instead of bringing Nintendo price down, they just say no, games like Halo and games like that should be raised up. So from now on, games like Halo are going to pay $80. Would you pay $80 for it?
I think we're getting that way. Like, I mean, some PS5 games are about to start being 70. And so I really think that's where we're headed anyway. That the guys who are making these AAA titles are looking at dudes like fucking Nintendo and going like, this isn't the same. We're not putting the same effort. You know, like I mean, if you're looking at, you know, a game like GTA 5 that's gotten continual updates over years and years and years, and like, you know, and the online playability and the replayability of the story and the just exploration and everything in general, like, you know, Rockstar has to look at that and then turn around and look at somebody like, you know, Nintendo being able to sell the same Mario game, you know, over and over again.
I would
man.
leave GTA 5. I would say that was the best example just for
Well,
the
GTA
simple
has
fact.
been regurgitated a lot, but at least each time it came with like overall improvements, especially visually. And
yeah,
so like,
but it's kind of like it's sneakily hidden behind like the microtransaction gaze, right? Or it's like, yes, you can like for instance, the inflation that's happened in GTA economy. My God, It's like,
no, like don't get me
you're-
wrong,
you're-
they've definitely had a lot of microtransactions. That's kind of their whole big bag, you know. And so
Yeah.
like I don't like, but then I don't necessarily like think like what's worse, microtransactions or Sword and Shield making you pay like $80 to $90 total for that game
Yeah,
to get
with the
both
expansion,
the islands.
with the DLC. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
yeah,
mean,
that's fair.
I think
That
it's
I'll agree with. Yeah.
I think it's a big stretch to sell stuff like the whole DLC. Like if you said like we're gonna sell you Sword and Shield, which has these things, the Isle of Armor and the Crown Tundra, right? As a game that is $90, right?
Yeah.
The $60 plus the $30 DLC, because it was $30, right?
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
usually a bigger amount than most DLC, right?
Yeah.
That's a hard sell for someone who doesn't play the game, you know, competitively. Who's someone who is not going to put hours into it just to, you know, play in a draft league or play on stream or things like that, right? I wanted to ask you, Jake, you know, what matters the most to you with AAA titles and their price tags? Is it replayability? Is it graphics? Is it story? Is it something else? What do you think, Jake?
Yeah, I think it's, I mean, with the big titles, it's a mix bag, right? It's all of those things. And like I think I said a little bit earlier is for me it's almost like I just have to feel like a certain level of effort was put into that title, right? Like I have to feel as if like And to be clear, I think $60, especially in 2021, we're almost getting to the part where like that's a good deal for what we get out of some of these games.
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
some games, I do feel like while I don't want to pay more than $60 for them, they're probably worth more than that whenever you consider
they
how much
are.
time I've gotten out of them.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if you think about it, if you put 60 hours into just that, if you put 60 hours into a single player, one player game, right? Like say it's Cyberpunk, I put like over 70 hours into that.
Yeah.
That is, if you're doing that math, right? Like I got less than $1 an hour out of like the joy there, like what the fuck? Like that's a great deal for me. If I could say, if someone else could say like, you give me $1 every hour and it's going to be a fucking fun hour. Like one of those where like, you're just going to be like, I didn't even realize an hour passed. I had so much fun, right? You'd pay that. That's an easy, that's an easy like trade-off. And so that's what I look for out of my AAA titles. It's like, am I going to be able to get at least what I feel is $60 out of this game? And while I'm playing that, like say if it is that $1 an hour, right? Am I gonna completely enjoy it? Is it gonna be fucking my eye holes? Is it gonna be doing all kinds of crazy shit? Am I gonna be not just like watching a movie, but playing it and living in it and feeling it, and so that's kind of what like really matters to me is it's a combination of everything. I want an experience, you know what I mean? Like that's what I'm paying for. I'm paying for an experience and hopefully a new one. It can be familiar, right? Like Fallout's a good example of one where like, it's a $60 linear story player game, but there's like so much stuff you can do with the base building and everything like that to where you can get way more than $60 out of that game, in my opinion.
Right.
Similar to Skyrim and everything, right? Like we can joke about how many times it's been repurposed, but let's talk about the actual when it came out, what it was worth, and how much people got out of it, right?
Yeah.
Like if we're talking, I got close to 300 hours out of Skyrim. That got way more than $60 out of that AAA title, But it had everything I was looking for. Even though it was like a lot of other Elder Scroll games I'd played before, they added on to it, made it better. It was better to look at. It was funner to play. And, I got to play it for fucking days on end, essentially. And so I guess that's what I'm looking for. And if you get that out of a game and it doesn't like, we may not agree that I think it looks as good, then that's okay. But it's like, for me, I have to get those things out of it. I need it to feel like a new experience, even if it is familiar.
Yeah. No, I feel you. What about you, Kev? Do you have any? What matters the most to you with these AAA titles and price tags?
I think it's kind of like what I mentioned before. I think I just have to feel satisfied, and I mean satisfied in the sense where it's like I'm satisfied walking away from this game. Like for instance, Fallen Order, right? Like that to me is a $60 game. I have no intention of going back and playing it really, unless I just like want to play a good story-driven Star Wars game. And again, there's that $60 again coming back around. But I think if it sort of checks that box for me, where it's like this met my expectations or gone above it, I have no like there's nothing. Like I'm fine paying $60 for something, and then it just flies away, so to speak, because I'm not getting that money back anyway. So if that or if there's the replayability is something where it's like it satisfies me in a sense that it's fun, it's something that I can do by myself or with my friends. It can't be one or the other, because to me that doesn't constitute as a $60 game. If it requires me having to make it fun, like an empty sandbox, so to speak, then I don't consider that worth the price.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think replayability is a big one for me. I'm kind of in between, I guess. I mean, I'm not between y'all, but like Jake and like another player that would just go for the competitive experience. I will, if it's a good story that's worth a good $60 of like, honestly, if it keeps me entertained for longer than a really good movie would, it should be worth more than $60, right? Because a movie isn't that same entertaining,
Right.
I guess it's different because you don't have to do anything in it. But I mean, a game that I can put at least about 20 plus hours into, I think is a fair amount of time for a game, is going to be worth $60 to me. And, like, I think there's just more that you do get bang for your buck for. And I think that's good. I think games should compete in that area of like what you're getting out of it. I think that arguably I've gotten more out of Pokemon for the $90 that I put into it than probably a lot of you guys have gotten out of a lot of different games independently. Now, does that mean that that game is really worth that amount of money? Like I'd said it before, like even with the DLC altogether, I think it's a hard sell for $90. You know, I think that is all in of itself. I blew through that story mode in like
Nintendo knew that too.
maybe a day.
That's why
you know?
that's why they broke up that into DLC, even though it was finished probably
Yeah.
not too long after the game was released.
And it made it $30. I mean, the $30 is a high
Destiny
price tag,
Destiny
DLC.
does that too. Or
Yeah.
they used to when they were with Activision. Like I remember there was a huge controversy. Like Destiny, the first game came out, all of those DLCs and expansions that came out year after year, they were in the game. They were just locked.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, no, when that news
Yeah,
came
and
out,
you
it
had
was a
to-
huge stink because everybody
Yep.
was like, well, what the fuck? You could have just gave me that game. Then like you
And
sold
you know what
me
it
an
costs
unfinished
to
game,
unlock?
you know?
$60.
Yeah, it's
So-
like buying a whole nother game.
One of
Yep.
the things I want to say, like we talked earlier about this, but does free to play lower your expectations at all for a game? Right.
Nah.
And if so, in what way does it?
Not anymore.
Not
It used
anymore?
to. I used to feel that way, but not anymore. Just because I feel like I can get the same satisfaction out of a free to play game than I can with a $60 game. I just think it depends on who's keeping the game alive and what kind of content they're rolling out for it, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, Fortnite has fucking concerts in it that you don't have to
Yeah.
pay for. You know?
I think free
yeah.
to play definitely like I think it definitely, if anything, it made my expectations higher for games I'm paying for.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Like it didn't lower them because if I'm looking, like you said, Fortnite, they've got free
Interesting, yeah.
concerts. Like, you know, it's
Yeah.
Fortnite was free, and if I don't pay for any of the cosmetics, I get a replayable game that looks good. By the way, I mean, yeah, it's cartoony, but like Fortnite graphics are pretty fucking
does- it
cool.
does look
and
good.
It looks
Yeah.
good, and you can play it at 4K. You can play it at 60 frames,
Yeah.
baby. Like you can get, you know, Fortnite moving, and it's just one of those where like, and that's a completely free game. You know, I play a lot of mobile games. Like I play like because you know I'm just like any other fucking loser on their phone all the time. Like Marvel Strike Force is one. I had to look at it real quick because I couldn't even think of the name.
Yeah.
It's kind of a turn-based Marvel game or whatever. The graphics on it are better than half the Pokemon games I've played. And it's a free-to-play, you know, Marvel game on my phone. And so it's
Yeah.
just one of those where like I think like at some point, like, you know, somebody's just gotta like they gotta do a little better, especially for us casual guys that are just kind of like looking to see some upgrades. But like
Should
I said,
there be a $40 option, like a $20 option? Something should it be tiered?
I think indie games are already starting to push things in that direction.
Yeah.
Because there are like we were talking about Stardew. You know, people were popping off in chat. I think that was $20 when I bought it,
Yeah.
and holy shit, game was definitely worth $20. Like I ripped
Yeah.
them off with Stardew Valley. You know, for
Yeah.
how much time I got out of that game, how fun it was, and so I feel like I owe Concerned Ape more money. Like I feel like he should come and collect. Like if he knocked
Yeah.
on my door tomorrow and was like, "Bro, you owe me 50," I'd give it to him.
For Stardew.
yeah.
Yeah.
What's up? You know.
And so like if he came collecting, you know, but no, I definitely think that like hopefully we will start to see more of a tiered option as the games kind of progress. Now I think what gets really hard with that is that we're only going to see indie games falling into those tiers, kind of how we're seeing it now.
Yeah.
Because who at Nintendo is going to want to try to admit that this Mario platformer isn't worth $60? You know, they're going to be able to sell it for that. So that's what they're going to sell it as, you know?
Yeah.
It's the same with Pokemon. I don't think any title with the name Pokemon in it is going to be sold for under $60. Just because they know they can sell it for that, you know?
Yeah.
Unite was free to play.
Oh yeah, Unite. I mean, there was also, I mean, there's been some mobile games. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Obviously, Pokemon Go, things like that, all free
Yeah.
to play. I mean,
Yeah.
for their console games, it's gonna be hard. Which I know that Unite was also a console, but it was like it's a MOBA, right?
Yeah.
And so, I think anything that's
Most MOBAs
Pokemon
are
with
free
a
to play.
story is gonna be 60. And so. Which, like you said, I think you know it made Snap an interesting one to bring up because that was
Yeah.
a $60 game. It's probably graphically the best Pokemon game they've ever made.
Right.
And so I'm just wondering, like, can the Switch just really not handle it? Like, because I knew it had some problems with like.
It shows that it can, right? With stuff like Snap, right? Like, why couldn't you have those environments where you could just throw Pokeballs at those guys and like battle with the same things? Like, why is that not possible? How is that not possible? You
Yeah.
know.
And the fighting game, Pokemon, what was that? The Pokemon fighting game,
Tournament.
Pokemon Tournament.
Yeah.
That game looks fucking tight.
They're really bad.
Those
Yeah.
Pokemon fights are fucking nasty, bro.
Yeah.
Like, and so like, I think that's what hurts me sometimes with Pokemon, and like especially games like Legends, is like I have an expectation in my head, even based off of other games Pokemon's made, that I'm like, this is where it should be. You know, like this is what it
Well,
could.
you know what
be,
the funny
you
thing
know?
about Pokemon is? Pokemon wasn't made by Game Freak.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, Pokemon wasn't made
It's
by
a pretty
Game
game.
Freak, nor was-
Pokemon's
and Pokemon Unite.
but
wasn't
fighting
made by
games
Game
aren't worth
Freak.
$60 either, and I don't
Pokemon
know
game-
if that's.
That's you don't think fighting is worth $60?
I mean, yeah, they are obviously. If you're getting a lot of like, we used to play Mortal
think
Kombat so much.
Injustice
Well, not Mortal Kombat. Yeah, we played Injustice at your house so
Yeah.
much in college, Dotson. We definitely got $60 out of that motherfucker.
Right.
And so like, but if I'm talking about like, if I don't have friends, yeah, they're
Yeah.
not worth $60.
I think it also like some of like it has to have like a story element too, like the Mortal Kombat's and Injustice. I think those are worth $60. They do a good job like telling a story. You're not just beating people up.
Yeah.
Right. No, I
no reason,
agree.
yeah.
I mean, it's gonna be hard to beat those days playing Injustice in college. Those were golden years.
Definitely got our money out of it. Yeah.
Definitely got our
Yeah.
monies out of that. But like, I don't even know if I think I played Injustice 2 probably just as much trying to chase that high. Never got it, but you know, I don't know. There's a lot of those games. It did like Mortal Kombat X though. Mortal Kombat X at that point in time, I did not have anybody in my life that really played fighting games with me. I had one friend and he really got mad when I won, and so like that's never fun to play with over a period of time.
Yeah.
And that game, like I did feel like I wasted money on it because I just didn't get the full experience out of it. Even when they added different characters, and then I was like,
Well,
you
it was
know,
funny.
I played it once or twice on stream. I still have the stream saved so that I could see like the ending of it, but I was like, that was really all I got out of it, you know. And so I can start to see a little bit of what you're talking about there. It just depends on the situation you're in if you're going to be able to get that much out of it. Like if you have a lot of friends that play Mortal Kombat and want to play Mortal Kombat with you, then a Mortal Kombat game is worth $60, 100%.
Oh yeah. No, facts. It's just one of those where like I think like me right now, and playing online has gotten one of those things where like if you don't continually play games online, you can almost not casually play games online.
Yeah.
Like, and so it's because you're just gonna get fucking waxed. Last time I played Destiny, I like tried to, I had to play an online game because it was a part of your like daily objectives. You know what I mean? And I was so bad at it, a dude sent me a fucking message and was like, "Don't play Destiny ever again. You're fucking awful." And I was like, "Dude, I have to. Like, it's making me do it. I don't want to do that. I don't." And so, like, if you're getting that replayability, I see why it'd be worth it. But I think tiers, that's hopefully the future of gaming. And I hope that the big box guys can like set their fucking egos aside and realize that like when they've made a $40 game versus when they've made a $60 game versus when they've made a $70 game, because we've started to see some prices increase. So
yeah, no, for sure. All right, well that will do it. We've been in and out on the value of $60 there. I think it was a great topic. So